Hello, and welcome to the Amplify Your Confidence podcast. My name is Me, written as MY, at www.dancewithme.com. This is a weekly podcast where I create fun, energetic, and informative conversations that helps you to amplify your confidence and live your life to the fullest. Are you ready for it? Let's go! Before we get into our topic today, how to overcome the victim mindset and live the life you love, let me introduce you to our guest speaker today, Sandra Abrouk. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, especially your last name, Abrouk. Right?
It's a tough one.
So Sandra is an experienced and community designer by profession. She guides company understanding their customer needs in order to shape meaningful products, service, and experience. At this moment, she's building an online community for a platform of designers and freelancing in the co-living industry. Originally, Sandra is actually a biologist and has always been fascinated by evolution and neuroscience. When Sandra is not helping her clients and understanding their customers, she enjoys learning, traveling the world. She is a digital nomad and had been traveling for more than 4 years. Luckily, she picked up this trend even before the COVID time. Sandra now is on a mission to connect people to themselves through self-development, consciousness, awareness, and to others to experience and communities. Welcome, Sandra, to our podcast, Amplify Your Confidence. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. Actually, both me and Sandra at this moment are in a very, very small town near Milano, right?
Yeah.
Like 2 hour drive from Milano. And we both come up with this idea that why not? We're gonna film this podcast here together in this beautiful. I hope I could show you guys because we are surrounded by beautiful natures, lakes, mountains, and very delicious Italian food.
Thank you.
But
Thank you for having me.
Let's start our conversation today because I think this topic is super interesting. How to overcome the victim mindset and live the life that we love, or you love, and everyone loves. So let's start with our first questions that I have for you. What is your definition of a victim mindset?
So for me, being a victim is really about thinking or perceiving that life acts against you sometimes. Sometimes or all the time, depending on which kind of victim you are. But basically it's like people do negative things to you and not for you. So it's saying some kind of things against you.
Maybe can you take an example of you? Yeah, because I would love we're gonna be very open up with our audience, share your stories as well, but let's make that definition a little bit more concrete. Take a situation, for example, that you think.
Well, yeah, I was a victim for a very long time, and I'm still a victim sometimes. The example that comes to my mind right now is that at some point I got fired from a job, and I really took it personally, and I was really frustrated at that person that fired me back then, and it built resentment,
Hatefulness.
Yeah.
To what the person or to yourself?
Both.
Yeah.
To both.
To both.
Yeah.
And you blaming the other person for what happened.
Yeah. And like replaying the scenarios and trying to understand where did it go wrong, but focusing on of that negative action, and me being a victim, being like, oh, I'm a victim of this action, and so now I'm miserable because I lost my job.
Yeah. So in a sense, I can put it in a way that a victim is a person that they believe that external factors actually control their life. in your case, at that moment, you lost your job. That's the external factor, right? And you let it control your life by being resentment, hateful toward yourself and toward others. Right. Thank you for sharing your point of view of what is the definition of a victim mindset. My next question would be, when did you realize you have that mindset or mentality? I think it would be a very long journey, right? Not everyone just wake up in the morning and like, oh, I actually have the victim mentality and mindset. And also maybe there are a lot of incidents happen in your life as well that make you turn to the direction of being a victim mindset. Maybe sometimes it's not your choice. So I guess let's talk about your journey a bit. Why did you even become a digital nomad before all the trendy thing happened after COVID, you know? You already travel the world working on yourself as a freelancer since 2017. 17?
Yeah.
Wow. But you are a biologist, right? So tell us about this whole journey before that thing. So after everyone have a college, graduated, and what did you do with the degree when you get the biology degree in university?
Yeah, so I started studying biology. I've always been fascinated by evolution, human beings, neurosciences, as I was saying. But then something was a bit off for me. The setting I had to evolve in within the scientific community wasn't really a fit to me. I think somehow I've always been some kind of rebel, liking questioning things and the way we're doing, why we're doing things this way, and trying to improve them. So the framework I was evolving it was too strict for me. So that's why I lost interest into sciences, and then I went in completely different direction. I'm not gonna enter in details because that would take an hour to talk about. But then after university, I started working more in corporate classic settings. Obviously, I wasn't fulfilling myself that much. I changed a lot of job. I grew up in Belgium, so that wasn't really well seen. Someone that stays only 6 months, 1 year for a job. So I had to justify myself more and more around who I was and why I had done things. Hopefully, I've always been very determined, so I would go there, I would play the game, I would find a story, because there was a story behind my choices, and as long as it was making sense, it would work. But actually, it ended in a burnout, and that burnout was really a big breakthrough for me. Actually, it was, I think, the best thing that happened to me in 2017. So
that's when you took a leap.
Yes.
Without that, you never go nomad.
No.
And what was your learning within this period of time of being burnout?
My learning was really about, like, I used to work as a robot, completely unaware or unconscious of myself, of who I was, of how I was functioning. And I'm still discovering that part of me, but it was really about who am I, what do I need, and why did I get to a point where my body is sick because of the way I'm treating myself. And that was the biggest learning, I have to
realize,
take care of myself first, and then I can give, and then I can work. But if I don't do that first, like, I'm gonna destroy myself, and I don't want to do that to myself.
So from 2017 until now, after the burnout, you got back to work, and what else after that you realize this, you need to awake from the victim mindset, if I say?
So at first, like, it didn't come at first.
There should be a lot of symptoms, right, about that. Through your career, to your relationship maybe, and to the way that your personal life as well. So let's tap into each aspect of life in that way, and then you can explain to us what did you see?
Yeah. So first, like in general, I think if you want to change something in your life, and for it to come from you, not from someone telling you, oh, I think you could improve this, it's a matter of first realizing it, but also suffering from it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And if in the balance, the negative is not higher than the positive, it's not something you're gonna be willing to change.
Yeah.
So it needs to get to.
Wow, I gonna fame this
So I think it's about balance, and for me it's actually funny because now I reflected, I was like, actually my burnout was maybe one aspect back then that I didn't take as a victim. From day one I was relieved, and I was like, this was meant to be, and this happened for me, not to me. Where many other things in my life, I took them in a way they happened to me.
Wow, beautiful. Beautiful saying, because you also realize that actually the burnout, now you realized it, the best thing happened for you, otherwise you didn't have this freedom right now that you have working everywhere. So okay, and then I'm not going to cut you and interrupt you. You can continue to share more. That.
So shall we cover about different aspects of
life
and how you're a victim or not?
Yeah.
Well, I think for me, whether it was professionally or personally, I used to be a victim in many different aspects of my life. I think being emotionally attached to someone even brings it in a bigger way, you know, like you feeling like you're a victim.
Yeah. Don't you mind to share with us like a specific example to make it a little bit more clear?
Well,
if you feel comfortable, of course, but I believe our audience, and this is a safe place for you to share.
No, yes, of course, I'm really happy to. And I think it goes back to actually self-esteem and confidence, you know. And for me, like for a very long time, I would pretend I was confident and I had good esteem, and people would have no clue that deep down I had zero esteem of myself. And so basically for me, when people at work, if my boss would criticize my work or what I had done, I would justify myself. Because I had to prove him wrong. I had to prove him I was worthy. I had to prove him I was good enough, because I couldn't bring that to myself. So I wanted my boss
validation.
Yes.
So that way, when you lose something, losing that validation, you put yourself in a victim mindset, because you blame this on others person for what happened toward you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where if you're confident, like truly confident, if you have good esteem, self-esteem, if you're secure enough, your boss is going to tell you you did that wrong, and you can take it, because indeed it was just a little mistake. It doesn't mean you're unworthy, it doesn't mean you're a piece of shit, it just means you just made a human mistake, you know. And those were things like that.
But I guess this thing built up through a lot of things, right? Where one thing, when you did something wrong in your job, or you did something wrong in your relationship, or when you did something wrong even with your family, and like you said, you couldn't let it go, and you get attacked by those moments, and even it already passed, you still keep it with you, and you blame for all of those incidents for you, from how to say it, like because all those incident, it make you who you are today. But you don't think of the burnout as the good thing back then, right? So although incident, if you think it the worst thing happened to you, and you act out of that insecurity of those things, and you just blame it for all external factors that happen. What's the moment that you want to make a change? That you feel like, oh, I don't want to be this victim anymore. I don't want to feel miserable anymore. Like,
There were two big moments.
mm-hmm.
The first one, because I was not only a victim of my work or my love or my family, I was also a victim of life and the world. I was a victim, like I was a huge victim. And to a point where I would find life unfair. I would be a victim of society. I would be a victim of capitalism. I would be a victim of climate change. I would be a victim of unfairness. And it was to a point that this whole world was disgusting me, and I was suffering from it. And then one day my ex told me, but Sandra, it's your interpretation of the world. It's like where you're at, you can take it in two ways. In the way you're doing right now, which is I'm a victim of this and I'm miserable and I'm suffering from it. Or, well, this is what it is and I can do what I want out of it, you know, and I can try to have an impact and change. I'm not going to change the whole world. I'm going to try to find my way in there, and I'm going to be happy and I'm going to do what I can, but like I'm not going to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And that day I realized that's what I was doing. Like that wasn't conscious of me.
Yeah, so everything that you have done, all the experience that you think it bad, it not happen at this moment. You're still carrying it subconsciously and unconsciously. It's still in you, and you act out of those.
Yes,
thought,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So right now, for instance, it is part of me. It is still there, but it's not as emotional as it used to be. It doesn't get at me anymore.
Yeah.
I know it's there. I know I want to do something for it. I know I can't change the world. And so I accept that and I go with it. I'm like, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do what I can, and I'm going to focus on the fights, the battles I can win, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe at one day you find peace with it. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting there. Yeah. Though.
But being aware of it is a big step.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you're finding solutions for it. How you can go from not needing validation from outside, not blaming others for what happened to you, but you take responsibilities for what happened to you. And if you want to make a change, I believe you are the only person can make it. No one else around you can do it for you. And I think being confident and have a good self-esteem are very important factors of this, because again, if you know your self-worth, whatever happened toward you, you take it as a lesson, and from there you know what you can learn and can improve, and you don't take the time to blame others or blame yourself. So how did you overcome and made such a breakthrough?
Yeah, so it was a long path, because I think, as I was saying, the first biggest step is to be aware of it, but then how do you change that? And it's really been a constant exercise and training of seeing myself living those situations, accepting the emotions they would bring to me, not acting on them. So for me, that's the key. The key is then not acting on whatever emotions you're feeling anymore. I had heard this 1,000 times, you know, you're not your emotions, you know, but I used to be my emotions. I think many people are, because we're not aware, we didn't learn about that. But the day you really realize that you actually have a power to dissociate from your emotions and to accept whatever's coming, but just not react on them, then your whole life changes. So that's more on the moment, on the spot, when this happens. And then I think what's really important to not be a victim anymore, it's to focus on the positive. So I was saying victim is thinking life happens to me and not for me. And so it's changing that mindset to life is happening for me. And so what are the learning I'm having from this experience? And obviously it's not something that's going to come the day this happened, because it's still emotional, you need to process, to go through this. But after a bit, just focusing on what did I learn, and actually what am I grateful for. And when you start doing this exercise, like your whole perception of things change. And little by little, like one thing at a time, your whole world changes, basically.
Because it's hard to change our subconscious and unconscious mind.
Yeah.
It's like the whole system in our brain since we already a little kid.
Yeah. Changing your subconscious mind is a very big topic. And that's why I think the first step is bring awareness, observe what's going on around you. And that's the hardest one. Because usually those are our automatism, those behaviors, they're automatism you're having. So that step is
even
crucial.
when nowadays when you hear people like talk a lot about like practicing gratitude or like writing down journal, and we like all of that stuff is not like I'm not going to do it, we already know. But the moment actually when you do it step by step every day, it's really powerful. And also, like you said, to really see life happen for you, not to you. So all the bad things, for example, you consider as a bad thing happen for you, and then like you said, what it is for me, what can I take it as a positive thing from the incident in your life. So yeah, that would be my takeaway, I guess.
Yes.
Is there any other thing that you would like to touch?
Well, just that I think that what's important also in the process is those emotions that you need to learn not to dissociate from. It's hard to get there, it's hard to put a name on them, and it asks a lot of work on yourself, going back to your traumas, to your childhood, to the way you were educated, the experience you had. But it's also a process, and it's about going layer by layer, and discovering all those emotions that have been living within you for years, that you probably didn't know the existence of. And learning to accept them, and learning to love the part you hate about yourself.
So I hear a lot of the word self-acceptance. Understand yourself, because I have to say our whole life is a learning journey about ourselves. When we were younger, we never have those kind of lesson, and then when we become an adult, right, we even didn't know who we are. When all those things happens, it's a good thing for us to finally put work on ourselves, right? And when we learn how to accept about ourselves, accept the thing around us, find a positive thing about it, and then slowly we can get out of the victim mindset.
And build really strong self-esteem and confidence.
And I think it takes a lot of resilience, consistent, and okay. But what other, let's say if one of our audience right now in that mentality, the victim mentality, what are the 3 things that you can suggest them to do right at this moment to help them to being more aware, to take the first step to get out of that? What should be your 3 advice or exercise or anything that you can put
That's
in
a good
here?
one. I would say, if you realize you are in a victim mindset and it's something you want to change, I think that the first step is observing yourself, and what can help is, every time you hear, like, you realize you are in a victim mindset, write it down to see what are the thoughts that come up, like how does your subconscious, your ego talk to yourself, and try to catch those self-talk, because usually they're the same that come back. So I think journaling is a good thing, and then try to identify maybe the pattern that are in there. And once you see where your subconscious or ego is saying, then you're going to be able to act on it, you know. And basically, usually it's insecurities that come up. So maybe try to comfort your inner child.
Yeah.
If that's, I don't know if people are familiar with inner child, but usually that subconscious that speaks to you, those comes from your childhood trauma. And so it's actually what's called your inner child that's still within you, carrying those insecurities, and that's what comes to the surface. So one good way to dissociate, for those insecurities to have less impact on you, is actually to comfort and nourish that inner child. Try to get, what do you need, you know, what did you like when you were a kid that you need now, and give it to them. And, you know, like visualizing you as a child, you know, giving a hug, like talking to him, being like, I know you're scared right now, but we're all good. I'm in this with you.
So beautiful.
It's very powerful.
Yeah, I got goosebumps on it. Thank you so much for sharing with it and being so open in our conversation. I really hope that our audience gonna have there's some takeaways from our conversation. And how we can find you, Sandra? If any audience here want to find you,
well, the best way is on Instagram, Sandra Abrouk.
Can you spell it?
So Sandra, and then my name is Abrouk.
Yeah.
So it's Sandra.Abrouk. You'll find me there, and then from there, like, you can reach out to me. I'm also on LinkedIn, Facebook, but I think Instagram is a great start.
So if you have any questions about this, they always can reach out to you.
Yeah. I'm really happy to share.
Yeah. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today. To our audience, I'm gonna see you at the next podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please don't forget to follow the Amplify Your Confidence podcast. Also, give me a rating on Spotify, Apple, so that more people can discover my podcast. And if you have any questions, please send it over to our Instagram at Amplify Your Confidence _podcast. And goodbye. See you next time.
Goodbye.